But thank you for joining us for our VIP dinner sponsored by Rhodium. I would like to call attention. We have the president and CEO of Rhodium here in the front, Chase Blackman and Nathan Nichols. Nathan is actually serving as the president of the board of the Texas Blockchain Council. So we are a nonprofit industry association. Therefore, my boss is a board of directors. So Nathan is my boss. And they're joined by Senator Angela Paxton, who will be with us later this evening. They were just talking about a story during the winter's freeze 2 years ago in Texas. We were visiting the Rhodium, the mine in Central Texas, the day the freeze started. And Senator Paxton was saying when she got home later that night and the power was off and they were all huddled together, the first thing that she thought was, I hope those Bitcoin miners have turned off their Bitcoin mine. And thankfully they had. So all the Bitcoin miners were off. So I do want to say a few brief words about tonight. I'll be joined shortly by our evening speakers. There was a delegation from Alberta, Canada that came down to the summit right here. A sizable delegation. They've been meeting with elected officials for the last couple of days. They're joining us tonight. And their Minister Dale Nally will be joining us, interviewed by Kalea Carrington, and Ben Harper will also be joining us of Luxor. So a round of applause for Luxor, one of our great Bitcoin mining Canadian Bitcoin mining companies. There is a kindred spirit between Texas and Canada, and especially between Texas and Alberta. For those of you that don't know, Alberta is the Texas of Canada. Or as they would like to say, Texas is the Alberta of the United States. I know I reused that from last night, but it's a really special opportunity to have them here, the first trade delegation from Alberta to come to any sort of event like this. So the first of many, we're excited to have them. After that, we'll have a surprise award ceremony for a couple key thought leaders that we want to recognize. And of course, Pat Green will join us later on. So let's meet our panel for tonight.
Please welcome to the stage, Kalea Carrington, Ben Harper, Minister Dale Nally.
We are very excited to be here tonight. The Canadian Blockchain Consortium, in partnership with Alberta Enterprise Group and led by the Honourable Minister Nally of Service and Red Tape Reduction in Alberta, we're very excited to be making Canadian history because this is the first time a delegation led by a minister has happened from a blockchain organization in Canada to a blockchain group down in the US. So we're very excited to be here. A big reason why we picked this, and a huge shout out to Lee for all his incredible work, is in Texas, you guys have done absolutely incredible, bringing together your government, bringing your industry, bringing your regulators to the table. In Canada, we're here to emulate, as we consider ourselves a sister city in Alberta. We want to emulate the amazing work that you've done here, and Lee has graciously offered to support us in learning how to bring this amazing industry even stronger into Alberta. So my name is Kalea Carrington. I'm the Executive Director for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. I'm honored to be able to moderate this panel today. I'm going to allow our distinguished delegates to introduce themselves.
So thank you very much. My name is Dale Nally. I am the Minister of Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I'd like to build a little bit on what Lee said earlier. If you haven't been to Alberta, you really have to come. We are kindred spirits. When I'm in Texas, I literally feel like I'm at home. And the only difference between Alberta and Texas that I found so far is you have better barbecue. But we're going to take that back. So.
Terry Black's on our first night, and I ate 3 pounds of meat, and it was glorious. And I will pay for this, but I want to go back again before I leave, because oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm Ben Harper. So during the day, I'm a financial associate for Luxor Technologies. We're a mining services and software company. But in the evenings, in my free time, I sit on the Policy and Advocacy Committee for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. And like Kalea said, trying to take some of the best practices that you guys have done and work so closely with policymakers to encourage the industry here in Texas, trying to bring that to Canada.
All right, so I'd like to start off this because the panel is kind of about why Alberta. So Minister, would you tell for everyone who might not be aware about a little bit why Alberta is amazing, a little bit about our province and our history?
Okay, just cut me off after about 10 minutes. Here's what I'll tell you about Alberta. We're a polite, unassuming province in Western Canada, but make no mistake, we are the economic engine of Canada. We are the powerhouse that drives that country economically, and we drive Bay Street in Toronto. We are pioneers of innovation. A lot of clean technology has been pioneered in Alberta, and it's because of that entrepreneurial spirit. We celebrate freedom, and we have the freest economy in Canada, and we're very proud of that. And what that means for you, for example, if you want to come to Alberta, you can build a small under 10 watt generator and have that approved within 5 days. And so we really believe, in fact, you can look at my title as minister includes red tape reduction. We want to get rid of the red tape in Alberta and put the job creators in charge, and that's you. The last thing I'll tell you about us is, like Texas, we are an energy powerhouse. We have a young, educated workforce, and we have a 200-year supply of natural gas. So I will invite you to come to Alberta and check us out.
Well, thank you. I'd like to add a little bit to that. Being a part of the technology ecosystem, we consider ourselves also a bit like the Silicon Valley of the North. We have the strongest blockchain presence in Canada. Google chose Alberta for their deep mind. We are the reason why Canada is considered third in the world for machine learning, and that comes out of Alberta as well. We have a really strong IoT sector, and we have some of the best trade schools. So really excited to be a part of this. Ben, do you have anything to add about why Alberta is so incredible?
Yeah, so I guess everybody here is really interested in the Bitcoin mining space, so I can speak a little more specifically to that. Canada broadly, like Texas, is, as the minister said, just an energy powerhouse, particularly on the per capita level. If you look at electricity generation, Canada would be the seventh highest in terms of generation in the world. But if you look at the major economies on a per capita scale, Canada is by far the top in terms of electricity production, the second most being the United States, and Canada would be surpassing that in terms of 30% on a per capita basis. So there is a lot of energy in Canada, and that being the real key ingredient in what goes into digital asset mining and producing hash rate, what we're very focused on at Luxor. That low-cost power, that abundant power is really the key ingredient, what makes us such an attractive jurisdiction. And then, as the minister said, there is the energy workers, the skilled workforce, everything that goes along with it. And then, like in Texas, I think what you're seeing happen in Alberta is a more favorable regulatory environment, policymakers like Mr. Nally that have come down here that are open to this new technology, open to this new industry that is not the case in other states, for example, and in other countries where digital asset miners' real potential isn't recognized, which is unfortunate, but that's something that is absolutely recognized in Alberta, just like it is in Texas. And the final point is we're way colder in Canada, which is usually not a good selling point, but everybody knows, anybody who has a data center knows how hot those things run. So we got a cold climate, lots of energy, really smart people, and I think it's a really exciting place for the industry to look at in addition to Texas.
Yeah, I think Ben hit the nail on the head. If I could leave you with one final thing, and let's be frank, there are progressive politicians the world over that vilifies this industry. That will not happen in Alberta. For Alberta, let's do that. Yeah. These so-called progressive jurisdictions may close the door. Ours is open. We recognize you for the investment that you bring to the table and the jobs that you create, and we thank you for that.
Well, I think that is definitely a groundbreaking statement from an incredible politician. So thank you very much for that, Minister Nally. So how about we elaborate on that a little bit? Because companies do have an opportunity to choose kind of anywhere in the world, and not that we want to take any business away from Texas, but why would companies want to come into Alberta?
And that's a great question, and I'll say because we don't want to take investment from Texas, but we know there's enough for all of us, and there's an opportunity for Texas to grow this business, and for Alberta to join you in that, and that's how much opportunity is out there. So we've some advantages that we haven't talked about is the free and open market that we have for electricity, much like Texas. And this industry will embrace the free and open market for electricity. We put legislation in last session in the spring, Bill 22, Modernizing the Electricity Act, and it allows for self-supply with export so that you can come in, create your own generation for your business, and any excess power, you could sell it back onto the grid. We have the lowest corporate taxes in Canada. We are, you know what? I know, but wait, there's more. We are cheaper than 44 US states. We are in line with Louisiana and Texas. You're about this much below us, but we're coming. We're very proud of our low tax rate. We have no payroll tax. We have no sales tax. We have the lowest personal taxes in Canada. And it's a great place to live. We were recognized in 2022, Calgary, Alberta, as the third best city to live in the world.
I love how like all the Albertans that are here are like, yes!
Now, there's one more I want to throw out. In addition to our tax advantages, we've eliminated 27% of the regulations in our province.
Yeah. And that's in a 3-year period.
And that's in a 3-year period. So since 2019, we have saved job creators $2.1 billion because of unnecessary red tape. Now, we're not the Wild West. We recognize that, we have kids, we have grandkids. We want clean air, clean water. Some regulation will always be necessary, but the unnecessary regulation that slows down the job creators, the duplication of effort, that's what we have to get rid of. That's what we focused on. And it has translated into faster approval times. Prior to the ministry that I have now, I was the minister responsible for natural gas and electricity. The Alberta Utility Commission eliminated in the last 3 years 48% of their red tape. And that's a regulator. Got rid of 48% of the regulations. That's phenomenal news.
Well, I would just say on top of that, if anyone does like to ski, if you live in Calgary, you're 90 minutes away from some of the best hills in the world. Yeah. We have incredible tourism, and we would love to invite you all to come up to the greatest outdoor show on earth because we attract millions of people every year with our Calgary Stampede. So we do have some really good reasons to be in Alberta. So Ben, my question to you is, why is Canada and Alberta quite specifically positioned to be a hub for digital mining? I personally have a very aggressive goal of wanting to see about 20% of the global hash rate landing in Alberta so we could sell our energy on the internet.
Yeah, well, that's a high goal. I think
it's a huge goal.
I think Canada, Cambridge's last estimate was just below 10%. I think in the 9% range, which has unfortunately come down a little bit since mid 2021. But I think it's a lot of the reasons we talked about of why it's such an attractive jurisdiction, right? It's the energy, it's the people, it's the cold climate, which I think is specific, and it's an open and welcoming government. And I think that those are really the key ingredients that will bring business, particularly in the digital asset mining space. But what I think, my focus is very much on mining, whereas you, Clay, would have a more broad view as kind of, I call you the Lee of the North, I think, is what are the areas kind of outside of mining, which, I would be more familiar with, that would bring other blockchain companies to Alberta?
So there's quite a fair bit happening. So our Canadian Blockchain Consortium, we are the largest not-for-profit ecosystem and advocacy organization in the country. We do support every province in Canada, but we like to say we support Canada, but from Alberta. And Alberta's actually grown quite quickly, especially in our exchanges. So our Alberta regulators are considered some of the most friendly across the country. Alberta regulators were one of the first ones to start doing sandboxes to allow for exempt dealer licenses for some of our biggest exchanges. We're very excited that Binance Canada, they called Alberta home. We have some of the best exchanges in the world currently sitting there. One of the other things we're excited about, our Alberta government to diversify its economy also allowed for the first time captive insurance. So if anyone's familiar with that one, a lot of people who do captives usually go to more Caribbean-based areas, but now we're actually allowed to have that. So what we're working on is developing out a really solid ecosystem for the blockchain cryptocurrency community within Canada and developing the first associate captive insurance pool that's going to be able to service all of North American mining, digital asset, enterprise-based blockchain companies with much more reasonable rates. So that's exciting that we can do that within Alberta. We also advocate very heavily to our Charter 1 banks to start getting better access to banking for our cryptocurrency-based businesses. And we have a lot of support from our other technology sectors as well. So Minister Nally, what are the opportunities for blockchain collaboration between Texas and Alberta at the government level?
Well, first off, I think that there's an opportunity to build off on our current trade. We have a $10 billion trade relationship with Texas. And so I think the challenge is how do we build from that and make it even bigger? And this is an opportunity to do that. One of the reasons that I'm here, obviously, is to promote the Alberta Advantage, but it's also to learn. Listen, Texas is a global leader in blockchain and in crypto mining, and we have a lot to learn from you, and that's why we're here. We want to learn your best practices, but we also think that there's room for collaboration. There's some things that we can work on together that will benefit both of our jurisdictions. So that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, and the area I think particular to miners that I think is extremely interesting and something we could work on up in Alberta is the demand response angle and the on-grid mining. Alberta is a very attractive jurisdiction for miners looking at off-grid, but still work to do on the on-grid side. And I would just give a shout out to Lancium Sean Connell, who is very involved down here in Texas on the demand response side and was sitting up here and is a great asset, but is also an Albertan. So we have access to some of his knowledge and hopefully can take some of that and help stabilize and build resiliency in our grid up north and make it more attractive for miners to get some of our energies to market.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Ben, what are some of the opportunities for further blockchain collaboration between Texas and Alberta at the business level that you see?
So, well, there's lots of opportunity, but there's also lots that's already going on. And we see this firsthand at Luxor on the digital asset mining side. So if you kind of go through the value chain of digital asset mining, starting with just the sites, right? There are lots of miners looking for the cheapest energy, looking for a site that they can get set up on, looking where they can get plugged in, right? And so we see tons of people from Texas, from Alberta, looking to make investments in each other's economy and really build up the partnership that way. So that's the first kind of side. The other side would be on the actual data center and manufacturing side. There are fantastic companies doing data center manufacturing in Canada. Bitram. On the immersion side, you have Cryptotherm, you have Upstream Data that works really closely with oil and gas companies. Steve Barber's an Albertan that many people would know. Austin Bank, really, I'd call out Cryptotherm again. It does a fantastic job building immersion solutions, which I think would be very interesting for people in the hotter Texas climate. But they're all also wonderful manufacturers here in Texas. They're part of the TBC. I know 360, RK Mission, Critical are some other areas. And then on the ASIC hardware side at Luxor, we run a ASIC trading desk. And there is lots of volume of machines. I can tell you there are trucks of machines going north and south all the time. And so there's opportunity there. And then on the software and financial services side, Luxor is a US-based company, but we have many of our best partners, Argo, Hut 8, a lot of the large miners are based out of Canada. We provide mining pool services. So we are essentially the export market for that hash rate. And what I do during my day job is now we've just launched a derivatives desk at Luxor where we have a hash rate derivative non-deliverable forward. And the real thesis here is, look, hash rate is a commodity. It is a digital resource in the same way that non-digital resources are the parts of the economy in Texas and Canada that really thrive. And these should be areas that we really thrive in. And producers of hash rate should have access to all the same financial products that other commodity producers, whether it be in oil and gas, whether it be in agriculture, whether it be in lumber, they should have access to those financial service products that allow them to de-risk their operations. And that stuff is happening mostly in the United States. And I think that is a great opportunity for Canadian companies to partner with.
One of the things I'd love to share a little bit about, I know we've spoken about Alberta, but not a lot of people understand how the role that Canada's actually played within this industry. So I know a lot of people are aware of Ethereum, that was founded in Canada. CZ with Binance, he's also from Canada. The world's first Bitcoin ATM company to go public was in Canada. The world's first ETF that was launched was also in Canada. The world's first Birth to Burger supply chain on blockchain, that one also happened in Canada. And I believe the first oil and gas royalty transaction on blockchain that settled in a bank actually happened in Canada. So we've done quite a fair bit. We actually have 13% of our population across Canada is actually into this industry or holds Bitcoin specifically, which is really fascinating. And to end it off, I'm also really excited about collaboration opportunities with Texas from that association level. When I was introduced through the amazing Emma Todd, she introduced me to Lee because she's just like, she actually called me that. You're like the Lee of the North. And I was very excited to meet someone else who was so passionate about this industry and who dedicated so much of his time. And from the first time I met him, I was like, how could we collaborate? How could we learn what you're doing? Because the ability to bring regulators and government and industry to the table, it's not an easy feat. It's something that takes dedication, it takes time, it takes education. And by developing out this opportunity with Lee, it was like, okay, how do we start to signal that our industry has that level of not just credibility, but sophistication to be able to actually bring this industry there? And by doing this trade mission, by being able to be welcomed through Lee's group, to see Austin, Texas, to meet the companies here, to learn about their best practices. And we want to continue to do that moving forward. So this is going to be the first of many trade delegations with many Canadians that we hope to bring down to the beautiful state of Texas and continue to develop out our cross-border relationships in the blockchain community.
Yeah, and I think one of the areas just for us as an industry where we really need to grow it is we have lots of support from the governments and as an industry in Texas at the state level, in Alberta at the provincial level. But of course, there are all these roadblocks that everybody would be very familiar with that were coming up in DC and in Ottawa. And so we as an industry need to find a way to build inroads kind of outside of it's fantastic what we've done in our states, but really build out how can we get our entire nations and the continent to really buy into this, because this is the way of the future, and there's so much opportunity here, and I think we have such a great story to tell. We got to take that to the rest of our countries.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have a final thought to leave us with, Minister?
I'm just going to leave you with what I said throughout this, which is we have low taxes, a wonderful free economic climate. We've got reduced red tape, and our door is open. Alberta is open for business, and we welcome you to come to our province. Check it out.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Lee Bratcher, the president of the Texas Blockchain Council. Thank you to everyone who came out to this year's summit, helping us make it the best one yet. Now more than ever, we need professional industry associations like the TBC to help craft effective policy instead of the CEOs of centralized exchanges roaming the halls of various state capitals or in DC. Texas is quickly becoming the center of the universe for Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital assets. If you want to be part of the future that we are crafting here in Texas, join the TBC today.